And on this episode of She is a Leader, we are getting somebody back that's near and dear to my heart, especially because we finally got to hang out here in San Diego in person recently. If you have watched or listened to one of the past episodes where the podcast was still Boss Your Business, you already have met Jaymie before. If you haven't met her, let me introduce you to her. Jaymie Tarshis is a highly sought after Facebook ad strategist and consultant that has been featured in Yahoo News, in Medium, in Thrive Global, and in Yahoo Finance as one of the 10 ad experts to watch. Her passion is helping impact-driven coaches, course creators, and service providers leverage the power of ads to attract leads and sales on autopilot so they don't have to post every day on social media, create more content, or just show up online 24/7, because who really wants to do that, right? Since 2019, Jaymie has taught thousands of business owners through her programs and services and has helped clients generate over $5 million in revenue to date. Holy cannoli! And on top of all of that, 2024 was quite a year for you, and kind of like the reason you started sharing a little bit what happened there, kind of the reason why I invited you. But we're going to start from the beginning. Welcome back, Jaymie. I'm excited to have you.
Yay! Thank you for having me back. I'm excited to be here. I like the shift in direction that you've made to the podcast and where it is now, and I'm excited for today's conversation. You definitely, I think, kind of put a little cliffhanger out there of what's to come. So
just a little bit. And if you have listened to any other episode of my show, you know usually I ask my guests first if little Jaymie ever thought she would be here, but we already covered that in the last episode. So guys, go back to listen to Jaymie's origin story. Why I have you on the podcast this time around is 2024 was quite a year of changes for you. And for me, when it comes to leaders and building a business and showing up as that female boss we are, whichever terms we want to use, there's so many terms for us out there, female identifying bosses, CEOs, all the things. One of my big things is it gives us safety. It gives us the knowledge that we can provide for ourselves. It gives us the freedom of choice to do and make the decisions we want to make without external decision makers. So now that I put thousands of cliffhangers out there, maybe you want to jump in and give the audience a little bit an idea of why 2024 was so big for you with so many changes.
Yes, 2024 was a year. We'll start with that. So towards the beginning of 2024, I made a pretty big decision to end an 11-year relationship that I had been in. Though I was not married, being with somebody for 11 years, I ultimately was, right? And so I closed a very, very big chapter of my life. I had been with that person the entire time I've had a business up to this point. So that happened, and that obviously, very much changed my life and the direction that I thought things were headed in, right? I had kind of a vision of where things were going, and I'm not going to say like overnight, but very quickly things changed, and all of a sudden it was just like, what's next for me? I don't really know. And it was interesting because I think it was one of the first times since I've really had my business where I didn't really know what was next for me. I've always kind of been that person that has, my next quarters, my next year, like everything sort of planned out and mapped out in terms of where I want things to go. And it really, sort of disrupted a big part of my life to where I was just like, I don't know what I want to do next. And I know for me in the past, when I've dealt with really any challenges in my life, it's very easy for me to just put my head down and work, right? It's the thing I love to do. It's the thing I'm good at, and it's a really good numbing tool. And I've definitely done that in the past. And this time I wanted to do things differently. And I was like, I can put my head down and I can just work. But ultimately, that's just going to make it so that there are parts of me that are unhealed ultimately that will come up down the road somehow. But also it's just going to force me to go into this like hyperdrive mode where I'm not really working with intention towards something. I'm just doing it to be able to numb out my feelings and all the things I don't want to face. Right. So for the first time since I started my business, really, I took a pretty big step back. I wouldn't say I paused my business. I didn't go on sabbatical. I didn't take that type of approach. At the end of the day, I was also a single woman at this point, right? And I need to take care of myself. So I do need to bring in income, and I do need to make sure that I can still continue to support myself. However, I did take a big step back. And, I've always been the type of person where the first few years I started my business, I worked a lot. I would, burn the midnight oil. But once I got to a place where my business was, pretty consistent and I had grown it to a certain level, I always worked, maybe I was the type of person that would work a consistent 30, 35 hours a week. Like, I would put in the work, but I still made sure to maintain a really good balance. But I really feel like for most of last year, I probably pulled back to working, I don't know, maybe 10 hours per week. Like I pulled back a lot. I would show up just as much as I needed to for my clients and the people that I still was choosing to work with. And as much as I needed to make sure that the business didn't burn to the ground. But beyond that, I took a lot of time to heal, to just enjoy my life, to kind of rediscover the things that really make me happy. I did a lot of traveling. So my year last year looked wildly different than any other year that I've had in business, but that was all kind of, I guess, what was the catalyst to that happening.
What I would love to dive a little bit deeper, because oh my God, did I feel that when you were like, yeah, that's kind of like the first time since I started my business that I didn't have a full plan. Considering I'm packing up my whole life right now and know exactly how that feels. And I'm like, I'm an over planner. I'm like, I know plan A, B, C, D, including backup plan Z for everything, right? And I would love to hear your experience working through okay, I don't have anything planned out into a level you used to. How did that feel in the moment? What did that potentially bring up? How did you work through it? Are you as crazy as me, who usually has plan A, B, C, D, E laid out? Talk a little bit more about this whole, okay, we are not planning out the next 10 years. We are just rolling with it. How was that for you?
Well, at first, I definitely feel like it brought up some feelings of like almost like unworthiness, because right as I'm taking this step back, I'm seeing other people who are just continuing to go and excel and achieve things. So it started to, it created these feelings of like, am I not doing enough? Do I need to do more? Do I need to have this all figured out? So definitely triggered a lot of that at first. But I think once you're able to sort of let go of that and kind of remember what was the point of why I did this in the first place, like I'm choosing to do this. It's not like I'm just like sitting back by the sidelines and just not doing anything. It's like I'm choosing to take a step back and to slow down. And once I remembered that, I actually, to me, I was really proud. I was really proud of myself for doing that. And not just for like honoring what I needed mentally and just for myself, but really for being able to be at a point in my business where I was able to take a step back and have things continue to run and work and to still make money. I think ultimately we all get into business to be able to have freedom like that. And a lot of the times in the path of achieving and accomplishing the next goal and scaling to that next level, we can lose sight of that, right? And we can get very much in the rat race of continuing to grow and scale our businesses, where we forget that sometimes the whole reason why a lot of us did was because we wanted to have time freedom. We wanted to be able to say, you know what, if I don't really want to work this month and I just want to go travel to Philippines and Bali, like I just did, like we have that option, So, like I said, once I was kind of able to let go of like the feelings of, like unworthiness, I'm not doing enough, things like that. It brought me a lot of feelings of just like joy and just pride, in what I've been able to build, because it feels good to be able to get to a level where I have that, and I knew too, I wasn't going to do that forever. Like I'm not the type of person where I can just like sit back and like let things coast. I needed to do that for a little while, but at the same time, like I'm an Aries, like I have full fire energy behind me, like all the time. And so I knew I would get that back at some point. And once I did, I'd be ready to go. And I'd be in an even better place after taking some time to slow down, right? It's like that whole idea of like pulling back so you can speed forward. And like, I truly feel like it was the best thing that I could have done for myself.
Now, you already hinted on you spend the end of the year into the new year, traveling the Philippines, going to Bali, all the things. How did stepping back and all of that, what was happening and going on, show up in that travel? Because that's a whole new level. That's not just, hey, I'm just stepping back from my business and slowing down and enjoying myself. You were gone for a few weeks.
Almost like a month. Yeah.
How was it? Was it that long? I just know that. I'm like, it was more than a week or two. It
was 24 days, like 3.5 weeks, which is the longest I've ever taken a trip, period. But also the longest I've ever been away from my business, like in that type of capacity. And to be honest, it was, I expected for more things to come up while I was gone and for me to have to still, pull out my laptop and work quite a bit while I was gone on that trip. And I really didn't have to. And part of that was due to the fact that, I kind of strategically timed that trip with it being the end of the year, going into the holidays, where I know my clientele. I work with, other coaches, service providers, consultants, and majority of the clients that I work with too are moms and have families. And so I'm like, when it comes to that time of year, like they are prioritizing also not working as much, being with their families, spending time with their loved ones. And so it was it was the perfect storm, like timing of me being able to step out while I know my clients are a little bit more on pause from their business. But also, I was able to really just plan around that and just know, okay, I'm only going to take on clients up to a certain period so that if they are in a support package with me, they're not, we're not getting started right before I leave for a month. And then I'm like leaving them hanging, right? I was really strategic about how I went about that to where I think I pulled out my computer once while I was gone for about 2 hours, powered through some email. And it was really more just because my email, my inbox was starting to get pretty thick and I like to keep it somewhat maintained. And I powered through a bunch of emails and then I was like, all right, I'm good for like the rest of the trip. And really beyond that, I didn't work at all. And that was really new for me. I'm definitely used to being away and still having to do, work while I'm gone on my trips and not really taking that full time off, the ability to really fully unplug. And so to be able to do that was really nice.
So did something come up through the trip? Did you have anything where it's like, where this old belief came back up of, oh my God, I should be working at least 2 hours a day or something like that? Or were you able to already get yourself to a point where it's like, all done, we've worked through the old limiting BS belief stuff, we are good? How was that?
So I took a lot of trips last year. That was my biggest one, but I took a lot of trips last year. And so I think by that point I had already worked past all of that, right? On the previous trips I had gone on, I definitely felt a bit of that, and I'd find myself forcing myself to go to a coffee shop in the morning to pull out my laptop. But then I remember like on a couple of trips being in that position where I'm like, what do you really have to do right now? Like, what are you just pulling out your laptop because you feel like you need to, like you should? Or like, do you actually have work, right? Because a big change that I have made to my business model in the last few years is doing like my VIP days, right? And so I can, when I have those scheduled, yes, I'm going to show up for those fully. But outside of that, I don't have to necessarily show up and do a whole lot more. A lot of the other things in my business are systematized and run on their own. And so there's not a lot that I need to be doing to like show up outside of that if I'm not actively looking to like grow or launch a new offer or something, right? So, so I think a lot of those shifts in my business model helped so that I didn't have those feelings coming up, right? I think it'd be very different if you were in a season where you were actively trying to launch new things and, and take on more clients and whatnot. But I just was in a different season where I wanted to work with a few people very closely and I would still be able to do that. But I also knew what my capacity was and I didn't want a completely full plate. And so it made it easier to not really have to think about that stuff as much.
Love that. Question. Anybody that is listening in right now and is like, oh my God, I want to get there. We all know it takes work, no matter if that's internally on your mind or if that is on your business. What do you think that personality trait is that makes you the leader you are? What is that thing, that personality trait, that mindset, whatever it might be, that has allowed you to get to today and be the leader you are?
That's a really great question. Personality trait, I don't know exactly what I would answer to that, but I would say the mindset that I've always had with my business is that when it comes to marketing, attracting new clients, how I want to be able to make sales and work with people, I've always thought about long-term strategies. So I've never been the type to get caught up in like you see, I don't post a whole lot on social media. I don't really worry about the trends and, like going viral and doing things like that. I really have always focused on like, what is something that's going to work for me long term, so that if something happens like this, where I go through a big life change and I need to pull back, yeah, exactly. Like something like that happens, like I want to still be able to have, certain systems or strategies in place that I know are going to work for me long term. So I've always prioritized things that are going to be low lift on me in terms of what I have to do. And that I know are going to work for a long period of time. And so when I say that, it's things like building my email list, where it's like, I know if I have my email list, I can always email those people and reach out to them. And I always have an audience of people that I can market and sell to. That again, like I don't have to worry about like that platform going away because I own that list, right? I was really strategic years ago about SEO and making sure that I got ranked when somebody was looking for a Facebook ads consultant, a Facebook ads strategist. And so I get a lot of Google traffic and I get a lot of people who just find me organically. And, I've built a really good referral network over the years. And so anytime somebody's like, I need help with ads, people know to send people my way, and I'm very fortunate for that. In addition to the fact that, I do good work with my clients. I make sure everyone sees good results. And so it's easy for them to want to share my name. And so having things like that, where I know no matter what's going on with me, those sources are going to continue to work for me, has been the thing that I think has really allowed me to be able to do what I've done over the last year. And so just not getting caught up in like what everyone's maybe telling you need to do right now in this exact moment to get a client tomorrow, but like what is actually going to serve you long-term in your business and putting more effort into those things. That's really, I feel like the where my mindset's always been, and the thing that's like served me to be able to have the business that I have today.
What's in store for 2025? Do you have plans again?
So I feel like I'm still totally trying to, map out exactly what that looks like. I think coming back from this trip, it took a little bit of adjusting to get back to the real world. I was like, oh, life has still been lifing while I've been gone, right? But I do have some plans to launch a new offer within my business. So I've been doing the VIP day model for a long time, still love it, still I'm going to continue to do it, but I do want to be able to serve more people in a very similar type of capacity. So I have a more scalable type of offer that's very close to what I do right now, but will allow me the ability to help more people. So I have some plans to launch a new offer. I definitely want to put out some more digital products around what I do, because I know, everything's changing so fast right now in the online world. AI is taking over everything. But in a good sense, I think when people think about ads and marketing, it's always like ads are so complex. And I'm like, AI has made it so easy to do what I do. And I want to teach people how to do that so that it's easier for them. So I'm excited to be able to implement more of that type of stuff into some of my digital resources. And then I have been really focusing on community. So as you know, I started these new monthly events here in San Diego called the Entrepreneur Success Series. We host them monthly. We've done 2 so far, and we have plans to continue doing them through the rest of the year. And I've been loving doing those. We've been, filling those out, selling them out every time. And it's just been really incredible that we've been able to build through that. And honestly, me launching that, I think it's the start to a bigger event that I've had a vision for a very long time that I plan to host later this year. So I'm not going to share too much about that just yet, but that is something that is in the works currently and has been on my heart, was on my heart for all of 2024, but I knew I just didn't have the like emotional capacity to be able to put the work into that. But now I'm like, I'm ready. I have the right team and people in place to help me do it because I don't know how to plan an event at a large scale, but I know people that do, thankfully. But yeah, so that's like kind of the other big thing that I have in store. In addition to, I want to continue to travel this year. I think doing that last year and really prioritizing that more. I've always been the type that's taken, 1 or 2 big trips a year, but I really, really made it a priority to go to a lot of places that I've been putting off last year. And it just ignited this new side of me. And I think similar to kind of, the journey you're about to embark on, you realize like, wow, I have this freedom to be able to work from anywhere. And so why not? Why not take advantage of that and do that more, right? So definitely leaning into that as well.
I'm like, I feel you on that one. I look back and I'm like, love San Diego. I do not regret any of the 5 years I've been here. And it's like looking back and having the conversations I have right now as I pack up my physical place. So if any of you listening didn't see it on social media, I'm going digital nomad, and the looking back, I'm like literally getting goosebumps right now because I'm in this in between where it's like, I like having a home base. I like being able to close my door and have my stuff and all the things. But on the other hand, I've also been looking for years at van life. Don't get me wrong. It would be bougie van life with a lift bed and shower and all the things and solar panel. And it's like now that opportunity came and I literally made the decision within 24 hours, I'm looking back and I'm like, I've been talking about this. I've been thinking about this. I've been all the things, but just in my head, but I have the possibility to do so. So it's like, why haven't I? And again, there is giving myself some grace where it's like, sometimes things just have to happen how they're happening. I'm not going to beat myself up for being stuck for the time that I have been stuck. It needed to happen. I have done so much work. But yeah, it opens up the door suddenly where it's like, I don't know where I want to settle down. Right now, it's like the conversation was Austin and it was kind of like written in stone. And I'm like, no, it's not. Maybe it's not going to be Austin. Maybe it's going to be Brazil. Maybe it's going to be Costa Rica. Who the heck knows? But finally making that step and stepping out of the uncomfortable, where it's like I had to remind myself that anxiety and excitement feel the same in the body. We just give it a different meaning. And I'm like, I've been talking about this for so long. Let's pack up the car and go. Everything else goes into a 5x5, grab a couple of suitcases and off we go. So it's gonna be interesting to see what comes up stepping out of my comfort zone, because there's so many limiting beliefs connected to having a physical place and having to have a physical place where I'm like, do I really? Where did that belief come from? Because logically, I know better.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. Yeah, I'm so excited for you and the journey that you're about to go on, by the way. But what you were just saying about how like you've talked about doing this for a very long time. And I think in a lot of cases, what we'll do is we talk about it, we think about it to the point where we come up with every scenario, if and but, like we like almost talk ourselves out of it because we're talking about it for so long,
every
right?
excuse in the book why you shouldn't do it. Yeah.
Right. But I think part of that is because in a sense, we know maybe we're not quite ready for it yet, or maybe it isn't quite the right time. But the second you know, especially as a woman, intuitively, like in your gut, the second you know that you are meant to be doing something and you make that decision, it's like you said, within 24 hours, your whole life will change. And I mean, I think this is like where I was at last year, where I just was like, within like, I don't know, a few days, I had like 5 trips booked over the next like 2 months. And I was like, I'm just doing it all and going for it. And I don't know how it's going to happen. And I don't know how I'm going to balance my workload around it and my clients. And you just, guess what? Once you make the decision, you figure it out. And that's right? Like that's the beautiful thing is like you will figure it out once you let go of the limiting belief around it. The only thing you can do now is figure out how do I make this work. And so you'll figure out how, being a digital nomad, you don't need the set home base. You can still make a home wherever you are and still have things that you'll find comfort in, right? You'll still have a home base. It'll just look a little bit different than what it looks like now and probably has like a beautiful beach or like a really cool city outside or something else that's like going to be very exciting. So
girl, I'm starting on Vancouver Island. I'm starting in Victoria. So it's like I am starting with driving along the California coast all the way. Friend is actually joining me because
you're driving all the way up. Wow. Okay. That's going to be beautiful.
A friend of mine is flying in next week to help me wrap up the last of the things, and then we drive all the way up. Got a couple friends along the way, so we don't need to sleep in the car or whatever we want to do. We catch a couple of friends in between, do the whole trip up there with a car, and then I get to spend some time in Victoria with a friend of mine, hiking, doing the thing, just resetting. I'm like, I've been stuck for the last 7 months. Literally, I'm like, my energy literally feels like I was stuck. And then, as you said, made the decision Saturday morning. I get the message from her. She's like, I'm not telling you how to digital nomad. Get your ass up here. I'm like, okay. And literally half of my furniture was already sold by Sunday.
That's a good friend that you have there.
And like suddenly when I posted online of, hey, this is what I'm doing, everybody suddenly came out. And I think that's part of business too, where it's like often enough, I found myself on the personal life, but I've experienced it on the business life before too, where we are getting so into something specific. In my case, it was that being stuck. I literally felt like I'm freaking stuck energetically. I don't know where to go, how to get out of it. Nothing is moving. It was a pain in the butt. The moment I made this decision and put it out there, everybody was like, oh, are you going to come visit me? Are you going to come visit me? And suddenly I didn't feel this alone anymore. When I was so stuck in it, it's like nobody cares. Nobody reaches out. Nobody does anything. I'm just alone in this. And the moment I made that decision, everybody just comes out of the woodworks. I'm like, I got invitations to Australia and Brazil. Germany is a given. So
That's
amazing. Think it's also an interesting to observe how my perception of that situation switched completely. The energy level, the feeling around it, the perception of it.
Yeah.
Everything changed within 24 hours.
I love that. I honestly experienced the same thing too. When I first started to, I went offline for a very good part of last year where I just didn't even show up at all on social media. And then when I finally did come back, I was very vague about it, but I basically was like, I've been going through stuff. I've been healing. I've been taking a step back and slowing down. And yeah, the amount of people that reached out that either A, were like, I've been going through something too. Like, I feel that and like, and just empathize with the situation and again, didn't feel so alone because I'm like, oh, wow, a lot of us are actually going through huge changes in our lives in 2024. But also, I also had a lot of people that were like, you know what, I respect that you're doing that because, I've maybe gone through something in my life where I did exactly that. I put my head down and I just continued to work instead of giving myself the space to heal and process and do the things that I needed to do for myself. And so, it's inspiring to see that you're able to do that and that you're prioritizing that. And so, yeah, I experienced the exact same thing where like, if anything, I kind of felt like, oh, I'm coming back. Is anyone going to care? Is everyone going to be like, oh, wow, you're like you just dropped off the face of the earth and now you want to come back. And it was like so well received by people. And that just like, I think really, it again made me not feel alone, but just also reminds you the power of like having that community and like sharing about the things that you're going through with people because people are going to support you and they're going to understand where you're coming from. And if anything, it just makes you that much more relatable and human because it's like we're all kind of going through similar things in different ways, right? And I'm sure you talking about you going down this path of being a digital nomad is also opening up other people's eyes of like, maybe I should try something like that too. And not being afraid to also, take that risk that maybe they've been wanting to.
It's worth it. It's freaky, but it's worth it. It's just different. It's just different. Something.
And you haven't even left yet, but just imagine when you're sitting on Vancouver Island and you're like, okay, yeah, this is great. I'm still running my business. I'm still doing the thing that I love to do, but in a just different, other beautiful location. And San Diego will still be here whenever you want to come back. So that's the great thing. Like, you don't have to feel like you're missing out on anything in the meantime. Like, there's so much more to be explored out there. So.
And I'm like, it's so hilarious, the little crap I worry about, where it's like, oh yeah, I have a nice video backdrop. I want to record the YouTube videos before I sell the shelf. And my VA is like, who cares? You know you can record the video without the shelf, right? And I'm like, I tell that to other people. We are completely overthinking. Just hit the damn record button. And now I'm doing what? It's funny. And it's like, I've been recording videos and dropping them. So we'll share more of the story in the future. Jaymie, where can people find you? Where can people find out of the Entrepreneur Success Summits? Which, by the way, if you are in San Diego, go freaking join. I missed the first one because my battery died, but I finally got to join the second one. And you guys are doing a podcast, a private podcast around it too. So where can people find you? Where can people figure out more about all the things that you're doing?
Yeah, I think the best place is just on Instagram. So yeah, connect with me on there at the Ad Expert. And then we have another page as well for our Entrepreneur Success series that's called exactly that. And so yes, if you're in San Diego and you're listening to this, please do come to one of our events. We are going to be hosting them the first Thursday of every month moving forward for the rest of the year. So we're super excited about it. And yeah, right now it is, in person, but we've been recording the audios from it, and we do plan to turn it into a private podcast series so that even if you're not in San Diego, you can still benefit from hearing from the conversations and feel like you're in the room. So that's good news for you too, Evie, with you, being, gone and you're
join.
You'll still get to, sit in on the conversations, and hopefully we'll also, be able to have you speak at a future one too. So we're excited about that.
And as always, links are going to be in the description to make it really simple for you. Jaymie, thank you so much for joining me. And I have a feeling it's not going to be the last time either.
I would not be mad about that, but thank you so much for having me on. Thank you for asking me to have this conversation with you. Like I said, this isn't the type of conversation I normally get to have on a podcast, but it was really fun to talk about. And I think these are the types of conversations too that need to be had more, right? Like not just talking about the strategy of our businesses, but really how we handle dealing with having a business and personal life stuff at the same time, right? Because they're so intertwined. And so I'm really glad that we got to do this. So thank you.
Thank you. And everybody remember, hit that follow button so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And with that, thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.